and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the this and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast, Facebook Live, and letgoradio.net. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are late. But does that matter? It's a big fat no, because my CP doesn't define me, and neither does time. Yes, it is Wednesday, October the 4th, and we are here again with another exciting episode of My CP Does Not Define Me with your host, D to the J with a rollaway, and the lovely Kim. And today we have a returning guest who has not been here for a very long time. I call him the professor because he has more knowledge in his little finger than Harvard has in their archives when it comes to knowing things about Social Security and how to get crap done. Tony Waterhouse-Leal, brother, how are you? Welcome to the show once again.
I'm doing well, DJ. Thank you for having me once again on the show. Look forward to our conversation again today, and so I'm excited. Thank you for having me again.
I'm glad to do it, buddy. Now, the last time we talked, you were in the middle of getting into your new house. The snow had fallen, and you were excited because you were a recent homeowner, got through HUD, got through all the application process, receiving disability, working hard, trying to maintain everything. Update us a little bit on how your home journey is going.
Well, the home journey is going well. I honestly now finally have grass. That was kind of a challenge, getting the grass to grow and sort of like, cultivating the land and cleaning it up and just kind of learning about, how to seed things and how to put nutrients in the soil. A lot of little things that you learn when you become a homeowner that you don't really think about when you're living in an apartment, especially with accessibility as a concern as well. But it's been great. It's been a great journey, and I'm excited to continue working on that. One of the things that we did over the summer is we planted a couple of trees, a crabapple tree and an oak tree. So really excited about that because they're growing, and I didn't kill them over the summer, so that's progress, right? So they're baby trees.
You're working on a little bit of a garden then, I guess. You can kind of
I am working on an adaptive garden, trying to figure out what that looks like, get boxes up high enough where, I can reach them in my chair and do some planting myself. I have a planter in the front of my house right now that's got a few shrubs and some bushes that we planted over the summer with the help of some friends. But I definitely want to make it more accessible, more adaptable so that I don't have to ask someone for help when it comes to, planting flowers or planting vegetables or doing something like that. So I'm really doing some research on how I can make it functional for me in the long run as well.
Now, I know one of the problems you were having the last time we had talked was you have a full basement in your home. What's going on with the progress of that?
Well, the basement in my home is still not accessible. We're still looking for a lift to be able to provide me access to the basement. We're looking at trying to find solutions for that, and that is proving to be very expensive. So as of yet, I have not found a solution for that, but that's definitely something that I'm still continuing to research. So far, I think the cheapest I've found has been about $30,000. So definitely got a lot of work to do there to figure that one out.
I think you and I were talking the other day. Could a wooden ramp be built down and turned so that you could? Which would be much cheaper than having to get the lift and all that. And could the wooden ramp be built maybe by a church organization or by an organization to help you out in that run?
I think that could be a possibility depending on how the ramp is laid out. It would probably have to circle the basement to give enough space to essentially have enough egress to get down safely. But that's certainly a good idea. to look into. There's lots of little things as you become a homeowner with a disability that you sort of don't really think about. When you have a goal of becoming a homeowner, and one of the things that I've realized is, I need cabinets that are much lower than the standard ADA requirement. So the ADA has a certain height where the cabinets have to be, right, for accessibility. But because I'm a lot shorter and, my chair is, a lot lower to the ground, I'm learning that, I needed some cabinets that are essentially lower than the ADA requirement. So one of the things that you do is you document your experiences, and then you try to figure out, okay, what is it that I need to do next to figure out this next piece.
So a couple things with my chair, I have the E3, the Permobil E3, and I have the elevator on my chair, which brings me up a full 12 inches higher. Do you have the elevator on your chair as well?
Not at the moment. I've been discussing with a few people and my current medical supplier about the option of getting a Permobil, although I still have some unanswered questions in that regard. Regarding the Permobil as far as functionality, the ability to transfer in and out of the chair. For example, like, are the foot plates removable? Because for me, when I'm rolling around the house, I remove my foot plates so that I can get closer to the stove and get under the stove. I don't know if very many people do that. I find that I can't roll around the house with my footrest on and my chair fully, I guess together, if you will. I can't have the footrest and the tilt and recline, sort of activated while I'm trying to do my day-to-day chores around the house.
Well, to answer your question, yes, the footrests are removable. You can take them off now this is the E3 model. You can take them off while you are roaming around the house to do your day-to-day chores. You get under the stove, stuff like that. Also, the functionality of transfer, for me, it's an inch and a half higher. I had the 15. I'm sorry, the 16 from seat to floor height, and this is 17 and a half. So it is an inch and a half higher, and maybe that'll answer some of your questions there. Let's see. Charles says, my girlfriend has that issue as well. She's a little person, and we are looking into this as well. So this is a question for Charles as well. Hey, Thomas, how are you? Welcome to the show. So the Permobil is very comfortable. I love the recline. I love the tilt. I love the elevator. I have the elevator on my chair, and the insurance actually covered most of that. I had to cover 20% of the overall cost of the chair, and it was $21,000. So my overall cost was $2,700. Yeah. $2,786.34. Cha-ching. But that's one of those things where I'm like, come on, lottery. But I mean,
one of my concerns with the Permobil has been sort of the overall performance, because I'm kind of a off-road kind of guy when it comes to wheelchairs, and I guess I abuse my wheelchairs probably a lot more than I should, as far as getting out on the road and putting groceries on the back of my chair and hauling them home. So my chair is almost like a U-Haul most of the time, right? It's overloaded with a lot of stuff. And things that I've heard about Permobil have been that it's more of a indoor office type of machine that really isn't meant for heavy rain and outdoor weather, that sort of thing. So how has that performed for you, as a chair's right now?
To be honest, this bad boy is a beast. I do have a little bit of trouble in grassy areas, and when I say a little bit of trouble, I mean with like reverse speed, because the reverse speed only goes up to 65% of its maximum. So, but otherwise, this bad boy is a beast. I've gone about 4 miles and came back and went, oh, all my greens are still here. Let me just go a little more.
Well, I typically put about 7 to 8 miles a day on my chair.
They say you can go usually about 12 to 15 in this chair. I mean, so
about 12 to 15.
You may have to replace your batteries some, but I find that Envision or the batteries that come directly from the factory of Permabil work very well. Um, and the comfort level, man, I've fallen asleep in this thing. And
Yeah. Well, when it
just,
comes to batteries, I've always been an MK user, MK batteries, and those batteries have always done well for me. I
you
don't
know,
know about anybody else, but
I, the only problem with the MK batteries is I was using those, I think, before I switched to Envision or Vision. I can't remember what it was called. And they got a batch of MKs that were bad. We had 3 or 4 or 5 sets put in, and they would go for a while, and then within 3 months, I'd lose a green and charge the chair up every night and make sure, So I just found and I'm not sure if these are NKs or MKs or what are in these right now, but I know these batteries are bigger in the Permobil. Now, as far as being an office style, let me tell you, I've gone everywhere. This chair goes 6.4 miles an hour, and I have hauled some serious Badinsky in this chair. And people get out the way when you're going 6 miles an hour. Let me tell you. Oh God!
yeah.
But anyway, it's one of those things. So,
Well,
it,
as you know, as I say, I like. And so that's one of the things that I mean, it's my mantra for independent living and get out there, try not to get run over or, get stuck in a pothole or fall out of your chair.
mhm.
I say I roll around safely, right? So that's always the goal. Although
But I
Frogger was
love.
my favorite game as a kid.
Yep, I love the contour of this chair, and even with the 6-wheel drive, the safety behind it. Kim sits in the old one sometimes, and she was telling me yesterday, man, I really like the way this chair feels, but I can't sit in it long because of the back. But she said, man, the control that I have, even driving the chair left-handed, is not so bad because of the safety that she's got. So it's good to hear that you're getting along on the journey with the household and getting things fixed. Can you tell us something that you've got accomplished with the house or something recent there?
Well, I think right now, recently, what I got accomplished was just basically getting everything unpacked and together. It's really taken me a while to kind of get that done and sort of make the living room look like a living room and get everything up on the wall. That part I think took me the longest. I mean, as you know, when we move, it's a very big process to get everything unpacked and
And we
situated. And
how much crap we have in the.
you and what I realized is that what I used to do before was, hey, have a pizza party, let's bring some people over and let's get some stuff together, let's get some stuff on the wall. And at least because of COVID and things that were going on, I wasn't able to do that quite like I used to in the past as far as a move goes. And so definitely finding reliable help sometimes is very, very difficult. So it's taken me a while, but that's been a really great accomplishment. I finally got my living room set up to where I'm ready for some football, right? So that's been some a major accomplishment for me in that
Mhm.
sense.
Now you were explaining and I just kind of want the viewers to kind of know about this, if you don't mind sharing it. And I know your life's kind of an open book, so you won't mind. But can you show everybody the or point the camera down toward the chair that you got to transfer out of your wheelchair to? Is that a
I
possibility?
can. It is a possibility. Let me move some stuff out of the way. I have something called a chase. So this thing is like a chair that I can lay on. I've got my footrest on it right now, but I will turn. Let's see if I can turn the camera over towards it. So it's like a little chair that you lay on, and I can move it around. It's lightweight. Right now I've got a bunch of stuff on it, just out of the way. But I move this thing around, and it's almost like a bed, right? It's my friends
Mm,
came in one day. It's like, Tony, hey, why do you have your bed in your living room? So for me, when I get ready to watch TV or anything
mm,
like that, I like to get out of my chair and sort of lay in, either an adjustable bed or this chase. And the chase on one side to where I can put my legs up on it, if I don't want to transfer, or if I do want to transfer and get a little bit more comfortable, then I can like slide chair, right? So it makes it really easy to sort of slide in and out of that chair. And I wanted something a little bit more vintage, but sometimes just to make some space because it is long, I have to kind of move it out of the way. But it is very, very lightweight. Something that I found actually on Wayfair because Wayfair has a lot of different types of furniture. So
Mm-hmm.
that particular company, I went online and I just started, doing some research. I mean, people have found as far as adaptive furniture, but I definitely like things that are kind of open on the side where it allows me the ability to transfer in and out because I do what's called sort of a stand and swivel type of transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So I go from like my chair to a seat. There are definitely some different techniques on how to do that. I was younger, I used to put my feet up on a chair and then I would just basically slide down into the chair as another way to transfer as well. But the chair has been a good thing for me to use, and I use it as an ottoman to put my feet up and put my socks on and that sort of thing. So reaching for the socks is always kind of the challenge, right? So
And then
definitely.
the chase itself, is it soft, or is there a firmness to it?
There actually, when I purchased my chase, there was three different types of firmness that you could choose. You could choose sort of like a really, really hard or something, kind of firm or kind of a medium. This particular couch I love because it doesn't sink all the way down to, like when you sit in a couch, normally, like for me, I sink all the way down and I can't get back up, right? So
That's
the
my
chase
problem.
kind of sits up higher, kind of sits up higher like an ottoman, level with the chair for one. So then when you transfer, you're made for that support so that if you're going to lay down and watch TV, you can do that. And so legs, they actually bend over to the left, sort of like in a big dipper shape. So if I try to get in a regular couch, then the legs kind of on the couch because they kind of fold in a different direction. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that chase has been a good solution for that because I have a place to put me essentially when I sit down on the chair itself. So,
Now,
but I'm
when
sure
you
people have many different options.
mhm.
Go ahead. Sorry.
when you there's a little bit of a, I guess, delay between the headphones and what I'm saying, but um, when you try to transfer into your chair, you said that the chase is even with it. How are you able to get back into your chair? Do you use a handrail, or how do you?
I actually on my chair I have like a grab bar on my chair. Like it has a grab bar that sticks out. I don't know if I can show you, but it has a grab bar on the side, and then
Yeah,
basically
so does
I
mine. So does mine.
utilize that grab bar too, and it's actually part of the armrest itself. So the armrest, let me see the armrest for. Let me show you if I can show you the armrest for this chair. So the armrest for the chair actually has like this little bar right here, and then I basically with this little bar I can hold on to this, and I can transfer. So and then this is actually bolted to the frame, and I requested them drill holes and put a bolt in there because some of these chairs have a little
Really?
rivet in here, a little rivet. And so what happened initially is that this broke off because it doesn't hold a lot of pounds or a lot of pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually had them drill holes in my frame so that we could mount the armrests and they don't move. So I use that for support and for transfers and for just trying to get around. So sometimes your chair, even though the DME might suggest something, you might actually need to retrofit and modify it for your lifestyle because
Mm-hmm.
the chair that you might get may not actually fit your lifestyle. And that's kind of been my primary concern, I think, with some of the equipment that I've purchased in the past, is that it really wasn't made for sort of that rugged lifestyle. So I'm happy to hear that the Permobile can actually handle that because that's something that I've been very concerned about as far as that goes. But this particular chair, I've always liked to have a frame because you can mount stuff to the chair, and then so like if they don't have a frame, then it's a little less supportive and so it doesn't feel quite right. But it's definitely when it comes to a chair, that's definitely a very specific thing, and that in and of itself can be a journey as well for most of us as we go through that. Like picking out the right equipment is a big part of that independent living journey.
Okay. Well, apparently a lot of people are agreeing with you on this. Now, you said you're a stand and pivot transfer. Is that the same thing when you get up, or do you just slide back into the chair there from the chair?
I do the same thing when I get up because I park my chair right by the bed and it's sort of a 90-degree angle. So then when I sit on the edge of the bed, I'll grab the handle and then I just swivel over to the chair. And usually for me, standing, I get about 30 seconds. So, when I get ready to make my transfer, I usually will move right over to the edge and then, within that 30 seconds, try to make that transfer quick. But if I delay, like with that transfer, then I might have an incident where I might fall. So I usually try to make sure that, I'm ready for that transfer because that 30 seconds is it'll go by pretty quick, with that pivot and swivel type of situation. So I just have to be prepared for that transfer, for the most part.
All right. So that gives us kind of an idea of what you want to do with because I'm this now for me, I have to get my feet in a certain place before I can pivot and transfer because my feet don't like to move with me when I pivot and transfer. Do you have that problem?
I sometimes I do, and I actually use a massager on my legs and my arms and my shoulder because like those deep muscle massagers because they basically help to loosen your muscles
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to trying to move and transfer and also some of the extracurricular activities that I do with with the CrossFit and
Mm-hmm.
with karate as well. Definitely extending that range of motion and that mobility is certainly something that to maintain independent living for the long term. Mobility has been one of the things that I'm trying to maintain long term to maintain my independence, right? So I do wheelchair CrossFit. I've been doing that for 2.5 years now, and I find that working my muscles and working, doing a cardio workout and also weightlifting definitely helps to maintain that the independence and sort of the functionality overall.
Let me ask you this. Now, I mentioned, and we'll get into the martial arts part in just a second, but you made a decision a while ago not to be just confined to your chair, and I love that. You and I were talking off air, and I'm sharing a little bit about this. I know you won't mind your decision not to be a couch potato, your decision to really get out there and say, listen, this is what I'm going to do on my journey. It's my journey. I want to lose weight. I want to be fit. I've lost weight and my gi doesn't fit anymore. I've been training you in martial arts now for almost 4 months. And, when you started, you were real eager and, real happy. And then you hit that bump of like, okay, this is hard. I can't do this. What made you decide to go, what, this is it for me. I've got to get out of this stereotype of sit there in the chair, get fat and do nothing. What made you decide to get off your ass and really push yourself?
Well, if I'm being honest, it was the fear of having to go to a nursing home, right? The fear of having to depend on somebody to do everything for me and sort of that, I didn't want to have to depend on somebody, wait for somebody to come into my house and, get me dressed in the morning or help me get in the shower, right? And so I've always operated with the desire to be as independent as possible. And it is great when people are able to help you, but at the same time, I didn't want to have to sit around and wait for somebody to come and assist me. But I was also scared in the sense that I've always had, the independence that I have, right? And I didn't want to lose it. And so I was scared to really lose it. And I started to notice that as I wasn't really being active, I was losing that ability to function. So as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's very, very true. So when you stop moving and you stop doing these physical activities, and they're gonna hurt and it's gonna get painful and it's gonna be sometimes very uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's worth maintaining my mobility and my independence for that. And I know I've had friends and family that are concerned about me doing, a wheelchair CrossFit, because it is intensive sometimes, and sometimes the workouts are not so intense because they're more cardio based as opposed to, physical. But I find that combination works really, really well. What I would say is to anyone looking into that is basically just, consult with a professional, your doctor, about, your range of motion and your ability before you start that, because depending on your situation, it may be something that you may have to start slow. And I think decision that I wanted to do this for myself, to maintain my body for as long as I can. And I didn't really think I was going to lose any weight, right? Karate, I thought, well, because at first it was like, oh, this is pretty easy, and then it's, oh no, this is pretty hard. So this is very difficult, right? So it's definitely been a journey for me to understand, and to, it really forces you to kind of focus on what's important.
Okay.
And so for me, that's been part of the journey with that.
So let's get into the martial arts part of it a little bit. As I said, I've been training you for about 4 months now. Tell our viewers what made you decide to get into martial arts. How did you come about finding me to train you, and kind of go into that, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I know you were sharing at one point, after one of our shows, you were sharing part of your journey with karate, right? As you're a black belt and you've been doing this for many, many years. And so I was just curious one day about what that looked like for someone, that is, in a wheelchair, that has cerebral palsy. And I just thought to myself, well, let me ask and find out, what this sort of looks like, and how, because I was curious. I guess it was more like curiosity for me. I wanted to learn about, what it could do for me, right? And so, and one of the things that it has done for me, so far on this journey, is building that awareness of being aware of your surroundings, and at least having a foundation of knowing how to protect yourself or avoid certain situations, right? In that sense, because you still want to defend yourself, from harm, but you also have to make sure that you're doing in the appropriate way, where you're not harming anybody else in the process. You're just sort of defusing that situation, right? And so that's one of the biggest things that I learned on the karate journey with you, is that sometimes we get in a self-defense mode, right? And we think, okay, well, let me just do this, and if we harm somebody, it's no big deal, because I was defending myself. But it's not just about protecting yourself or defending yourself. It's about diffusing the situation and walking away from that safely, both yourself and the assailant as well, so that you lessen the impact on your life and theirs as well. So that's definitely one of the things that I've learned over the last 3 months. And as I've gone through the journey, I've lost weight. I've learned to focus my emotions better. Learned to understand what it is that I'm working on, and really how important meditation is, right, in that process. Learning to kind of focus on what you need to do, and how you're going to do it, and then how you're going to execute that. And so that sort of focus and that meditation, I think, have been a big part of that journey.
What is it? What is the meditation and the organization done for you? Because I know, throughout your journey, the more we talk about it, from month 1 to 2, you were great, but from month 3 to 4, you have exploded. I mean, you've totally exploded. You're asking questions now. You're more, how do I do this? Is this right? I could use this block and this block. What has that done for you?
Well, it's really taught me to kind of think about, the application, or the bunkai as we call it, right? So we talk about the application of the different moves and the different processes. And so then you think about, okay, well, if I had this particular situation, well, how do I apply that to diffuse this particular problem? And I think that's what it's just really forced me to really think about what I do before I take an action. Right? Really think about what you say. Think about how you're going to approach a problem. Think about how you're going to respond to that problem in a way that's equitable for you and someone else. Right? You don't just want to respond to something because you're angry, and then you might respond in a way that is probably going to bring you more problems, as opposed to if you think about what you're going to say and how you're going to do it, you might be able to avoid future incidences, right? So I really had to get organized. I really had to get focused. I had to sort of understand, and at first I didn't understand it really, didn't understand what that meant for me and how I could apply it to my life. But once I started working on that application and figuring out how I could apply that, it really started to kind of change how things, the focus and how things work for me overall.
What what are some of the you're getting ready to go, I think, in the yellow belt now. What are some of those challenges that you faced recently?
I mean, I think some of the challenges is just performing some of the moves and some of the exercises slow and efficiently, right? We have a tendency to want to do things fast because we're trying to, in most cases, multitask. And so when we're multitasking, we're not necessarily focused completely on the object at hand, right? We're trying to move forward before we've completed task number one, right? So it's taught me to sort of go from like complete task one, then complete task two, and then complete task three. And we're still moving forward, but we're moving forward at a pace that is both, functional and smooth, right? Um, and so that's definitely something that I've learned, is that you don't always have to rush through things to get it done. You can get it slowly by just taking your time, and not so much taking your time to the point where it's slow, but it just efficient.
As an instructor, you've dealt with me for 4 months now, and you've seen me teach from a standing position. You've seen me teach from a sitting position. You've seen me teach females. You've seen me teach males. What do you? I mean, how do you evaluate it? What do you think of my teaching methods? What do you? I mean, there's questions I'm gonna throw here, but overall, evaluating me from the questions that you had wanting to come into this thing, where do you see it going, and how do you see me as an instructor?
Well, to answer your first question, where I see it going is I definitely see myself growing in the art of karate, right? And it's a mental, you know training and application to sort of be aware of yourself and your surroundings and sort of what's going on, and how to be safe, right? And then the other is, as an instructor, you're very dynamic in the way that you teach, right? So according to what's going on with me or with a student, I had a situation where I had to take a little bit of a break because of a situation, and I mean, you saw that and you gave some tips and some advice and said, hey, let's do this, right? And so very observant in the way that you're looking at a situation, going, okay, I need to handle this differently. So I appreciate the that you're dynamic and responsive to me as a student, right? To understand what it is that I needed at the time to help me move forward. And so I really appreciated that aspect of it.
How has martial arts helped the stress level in your life?
It's reduced it quite a bit because I learned, one, how to organize myself, how to structure myself a little bit better. And, to go back to the social security issue, I had some social security issues in the beginning as well. So that can definitely be stressful for a lot of us, right? As we deal with some of those things with work and managing that. And so one of the things that I learned through that process, how important a benefits coordinator is, right? To help you, keep track of those things that and to really ask for help, because I hadn't really been asking for any help at all. So getting a benefits coordinator and having someone, manage those disability related expenses, getting those doctor's notes so that you can classify those as disability related expenses, whether that be for adaptive sports or whether that be for anything that you need to do to reduce your stress level. The only thing the doctor needs to do really is document what it is you're using that particular product or service for, and how it pertains to your disability. And so that's one of the things that I learned through that process, how important a benefits coordinator is, as far as helping you understand what is a disability related expense and how do I tie that back to my expenses when it comes to working. and lowering what we call the substantial gainful activity.
And this is kind of getting into to where you've helped me too, coming in as things I don't understand on the side that I've never dealt with. And I go, Tony, have you dealt with this? What do you do here in your situation? Or you'll ask me a question, since I'm in a scenario where I don't understand this. What do I do here? What do I use? Could I use this, and this? We really helped each other in a lot of ways, just from our year and year. I mean, I've known you almost well a year and a half.
A year and a
It,
half.
it's different now because our relationship has blossomed in the sense that it's more brotherly love now than it's still student teacher, and you're very respectful in that. But it's also okay. Now I'm starting to see the applications he's applying because you saw the tournament for the first time. Explain your sensation in that and your thought process in that.
I mean, the sensation of that was, it was kind of a wow moment for me, right? Because I saw some movements and I saw some things that I'd never seen before, and I couldn't really visualize it when you were explaining it until I saw it for myself, right? It's one of those things where you have to see it to believe it, because I just didn't know, where I am now, I didn't know where you could go, right? And so it helped me to see, sort of like from where I am now, where I can go and what I can do with it. And I was just very, very impressed with how it all flowed, and it was very quick. And so, as an attack would be, right? If someone's going to attack you, it's going to be very, very quick. They're not going to take their time with it, right? So usually it's going to take, maybe 1 or 2 minutes and it's over, right? So you really, really have to be aware of those situations and those surroundings and know how to respond. And so I was really blown away. I mean, truthfully, I saw that and I thought, wow. And so, and thank you for, the opportunity to be a student and to learn from that experience. But it was a wow moment for me when I saw that.
What do you say to somebody that asks you, how do you do martial arts from a chair? How is it, how does it work for you? What do you do when you explain it to somebody, even a significant other? I mean, your other half. What do you say to them to get them to realize, listen, this is what I'm going to do. You can be part of it, or you can choose not to.
Right. Well, I mean, what I'd say to anybody really is you have to be adaptive to pretty much every situation, right, that comes along, whether you're cooking or cleaning or working on your house, those types of things. So you have to be open to the idea of sort of adaptive experiences, as I call them. So like if you're gonna work on some cooking or karate, you just kind of figure out what works for you, and then take it from that context. And then basically you figure out a way that you can get it done. And in the same sense, what you're doing is you're learning how to protect yourself if somebody were to come up behind you or beside you or above you. And so it's all about learning how to take a situation and come away from it safely. And so,
How would you say that you explain to a parent? Because I know you told your parents. I know you told a couple other. I know you told your significant other's parents. About the journey a little bit. How did they take it, and what was their response to?
I mean,
How?
I think overall it was positive. It's just the experiences. We all have different abilities, right? As wheelchair users. So sometimes, like for example, I didn't see how you were going to necessarily compete in a tournament until I saw it for myself, right? Sometimes we don't see things because we haven't had that experience, that personal experience. But once you share an experience or you see something, then you're able to, overall things have been positive. But I've also, at the same time, we deal with a lot of emotional things, things that, we deal with on our personal lives with, relationships and how people see disability relationships, right? So a lot of times we have to answer the question of, well, you're in a wheelchair and this person's in a wheelchair too. So how do you guys help each other? How do you guys cook? How do you guys do these things, right? And so, it's all about, and what I've learned as a homeowner as well is it's a good thing because I'm out here and my neighbors get to see how I interact, how I take the trash out. And so when I first moved in, they were all concerned for me. They were worried about me. So you live in the house alone by yourself. How are you going to take out the trash? How are you going to take care of yourself? And over the course of 2 years, my neighbors have learned that I'm very independent and very capable. And I would say that, overall, the responses have been, positive, but it's also there have been moments where I've had opportunities to sort of teach, as well, and learn and grow myself. I mean, from my perspective, I'm also learning that people have different abilities and they might need, additional help, and that's okay. And I'm also learning that asking for help for me is okay, because for the longest time I wouldn't really allow anybody to help me out because I thought, well, being independent meant that I had to do everything myself. And I'm learning through this journey that I don't necessarily have to do that. What I need to do is find the right resources to help myself out, right? And with the discussions with the Permobil, for instance, it's kind of the same situation, right? Is, I need something that works a little bit better than I have now. And so I'm having to learn that, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek out additional resources. And because there was a moment there where I was so stressed out with everything that was going on, they were like, okay, we have to take a break right now and figure out how you're going to restructure your life and restructure yourself. There was that moment, right, where we had to take a pause from the course because I was all over the place with things that were going on. And so once I realized that I needed to take time for myself and really, when we say take care of yourself, it's more than just feeding yourself. It's more than just like, paying the bills and having a job, right? It's everything with, your emotions, your meditation, giving yourself time to sort of rest and recover. It's a really, really big part of it. And I think we get busy in our day-to-day lives trying to figure that out, right? So, and it's really what the karate has taught me is how to balance that a little bit better than I was before, right? Trying to balance those techniques and those things, because there really was a moment there where I think I was sort of in a mental breakdown, I would say, because I just wasn't doing well. And I'm also learning that the abilities that I have, someone else may not have. And I also have to learn things from someone else's perspective when the abilities are different, right? And how things are managed as well. So I'm still on a journey. I'm still learning. I learn every day from those experiences. And I learn from other people. And as a community, with my CP does not define me. We are learning from each other in that sense as well. And we continue to do that. So I'm really thankful to be able to be a part of a group, that we can learn from each other, right? And share information and ideas on, how do you transfer and what kind of technology works the best, right? So it's definitely been great overall.
Does all of this give you a sense of relief from what you were? Because I remember how stressed out you were you took about, and in the first 2 months of class, you took about a month break, and you were just all over the place like a ping pong ball, boom, 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 boom. And I remember going through with you kind of the things. Okay, what is bothering you? Let's really look at the problem. How much of this, without your martial arts at that time, and even me as teaching you again, coming back, we don't just talk as instructor and student. We talk as friends. And you look at it as a situation and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now. Again, I guess, is it still part of the focus? Is that all of that? Or
I mean, it's I'm still kind of working through that. I mean, as we all, typically do. I mean, I'm thankful for you, to kind of, as an instructor, to tell me, hey, I see a problem here. We need to fix it. We need to, and it was one of those moments where we kind of needed to stop and reassess, right? But then I'm also, my partner also had a lot to do with it as well, trying to helped me kind of figure out. And I'm a bit stubborn as well. Like, sometimes I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to do that, but and we go back and forth, right, with a lot of things as well. Just trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the journey, also. But at the end of the day, I think what karate and what the CrossFit has brought me, one, the mobility, but the karate has brought me the focus, more focus that I needed, right, to sort of work on that independent living journey. And also I've struggled as a person with a disability, right? I've had my career, I bought my house, and I've done all these things. And so sometimes my challenge now is not to turn life into a checklist, like, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and then you stop. So then it's a continuation. So that's what I'm learning, is that it's a continuation. So for a while there, I was thinking, hey, it's more like a checklist, right? So I've checked all the boxes. So what next, right? And so I'm learning that life is really more of a ongoing, continual thing, and we're constantly going to have to be adapting and refining, to get to where we want to be. So that's definitely something that I'm learning in that journey, and through that process, I'm also learning to apply things differently and do things differently as well.
One of my favorite things about this for you is when you were starting to learn some of the kata movements, you were thinking you had to do them in order. And and when we took the
Right.
order away, you were like, oh my God, I have to have the order to this. How am I going to do this without the order? Can you just explain a little bit of how you processed? Okay, don't worry about the order so much as the execution.
Well, initially I started, with the order because I was trying to find, I wanted to memorize it, right? And so, and what I learned with karate, you don't necessarily memorize the movements, because somebody might come at you with like a movement that isn't, like, let's say,
The next number.
the X number, right? And so, so you really have to, it really teaches you to adapt in a different way. We do that as people with disabilities all the time. We adapt to our lives and our situation, but I really wanted to take a linear approach to it, and I realized, nope, you can't really do that, because sometimes life isn't really linear. It kind of moves around in many different ways, right? So it definitely, it really kind of forced me to kind of think about how to sort of adapt in a different way. Or it reminded me, that I needed to be more adaptable.
Yeah, yeah. Where do you see yourself 3 months from now?
Well, I see myself obviously completing the yellow belt, and then working on additional training and additional learning, and possibly maybe next year, or shortly in the future, maybe a small competition of sort. I don't know exactly where, but I do see myself. I'm going to move along in the journey one step at a time, and I see myself moving forward, with that. And I think it's definitely something that, if you need structure, and you need organization, the karate is definitely a good way to build that structure and that organization. See, for me as a person with a disability, I've had to do a lot of things on my own, with no family, no support really. I mean, I have friends and family now locally here in Kansas City, and Kansas City has been wonderful for me. But in my journey, for the most part, I've had to handle things pretty much on my own, and it's a challenge when people have hurt you and they've done things in such a way that it's hard for you to sort of say, I'm going to accept the help, and I'm going to let somebody in to my life, right, and let them love me, as it were, or let them reach and sort of help you. And so that's kind of where I've been, right? Like, it's very difficult to let people in sometimes, and sometimes you just have to let go of the past and be able to sort of. And so I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is learning to let go. I mean, through the application of karate, and the focus is learning to let go of those things that were holding me back, right? And it's still a challenge on a day to day. And so, but once I built that focus and that understanding of what I wanted to do and what I needed to do, it certainly was a lot better for me. And it definitely is a journey. It's not something that, well, I'm going to take a karate class and, one or two classes, and you're done. It's more of, this is, these are the movements and this is how you apply it. And this is how applying that can help your life. Right. And so initially I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to read a book and I'm going to learn about karate. And it really was different. It wasn't what I expected, but it was still great in the sense that it's taught me structure. It's taught me discipline. And I didn't know I needed the discipline. That was the real kicker for me was, when I realized that, oh, I need structure. I need discipline. And I didn't know I needed it until I went through these first few courses with you. And I realized my life is a mess. Yeah, definitely. It's been difficult. But it's been great. I'm glad that I've gotten to where I've gotten.
It seems to me that all of this, I mean, to go from point A to point B, you were you wanted to, at first, you wanted to see point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you looked at it and went, okay, how do I get here? And now you're kind of this structure that you got your organization board put up, you got stuff put up on your wall, you got weights, you got your straps, your equipment. Hey John, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All of that, you've done so much more for yourself to benefit your own journey. I mean, yes, with some of my help, but it's like you're kind of starting to, if I say take control of your own journey to a point where it's not, I've got to see everything, but I'm trying to break it down piece by piece. Is that becoming easier for you now?
I think the thing that I would say to that is that it's more like when we talk about self-care, okay, you hear a lot of people talk about self-care, take care of yourself. One of the things that I've learned through this journey is that you really have to take that self-care and apply it to yourself. And so for me, the karate journey has been about the discipline, but also the self-care as well. And so that's something that I never thought that would come out of that journey, is the self-care and taking care of yourself, both physically, emotionally, and those things. And so I think that's been the biggest part for me.
Do you feel that the disabled community doesn't do that enough?
Well, I think that we focus so much on our disability and how to manage the disability, but we forget that, self-care and taking time for ourselves is also okay. So, especially if you're someone with a disability who has a family and you're trying to raise a family, you're trying to manage your disability and then take care of the family. And so sometimes we forget that self-care is also needed, and we can take time for ourselves to do that. And so, we might feel guilty for taking time for ourselves because other people need us, right? And so that self-care, I think, is something that we just kind of, a lot of times, because we're so busy, we ignore it and we leave it behind, right?
Let me ask you this. So we got about 6 minutes left in the show, and I want to kind of go through and say, okay, if you had an opportunity to speak to your younger self now, you look at 20-year-old Tony, and you go, okay, this is what I want to talk to you about. What would you say to yourself now, with so much of the structure that you've had in your life, some of the meditation, the understanding to slow down, the slow makes smooth, smooth makes fast, all of that. What would you say to your younger self now? In what would you tell yourself?
What I would tell myself, I think, is, get organized and slow down, because I think I was running, 1,000 miles an hour trying to get everything done. And, I gave myself to a corporation for many, many years and many, many hours, and, working 50, 60 hours a week, that I wasn't taking care of myself. So what I'd say to my younger self is, you know what, those extra hours, that extra money, it's not worth it. Take care of yourself. That's what I'd say to my younger self.
Okay. Well, the last 5 minutes of the show are yours, Tony. Do me a favor. Let us know, if you would, how we can get in contact with you. Um, you can talk about, your anything you want to talk about with martial arts, or with what you're doing with your house, or your job. The last 5 minutes are yours. Share something with us.
Well, one of the things I would definitely say to get in touch with me, my email address is tony.waterhouse.leal@gmail. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, they can email me there. And really, what I'd like to hear from our viewers is, what types of technology and products are you using to make your day-to-day life easier? For me, in my home ownership journey, I find that smart devices are it's one of the things that makes my life easier, turning the lights on and off. I have a smart oven, right? So I can preheat my oven. And so what types of smart devices are we using for independent living and for adaptability, as it were, to make things easier? If anyone is, using those types of things. Have you, DJ, used any smart devices in your home to make your life easier?
I had the clapper at one time. I've used the Alexa Dot. I set it up for my mom. I have the Contour TV with the voice remote. I don't have a lot of the smart devices, because I don't really want to depend on technology, because my thing is, it gets creepy for me when I'm alone. Like, if I'm sitting there and all of a sudden Alexa goes, "How are you?" I'm like, "What in the world? Don't talk to me. I don't want to." Like, I would, I don't know. I used to live by myself in my 20s, and it was rough. I mean, because I'm very much a people person, and I had the light switches that you can pull the chain down from the wall, and the you can push this button and the TV will come on, or the tap lights, the motion lights that'll come on when you go into a certain room, or the timer lights. But I mean, most of that's about as much of the technology that I
Yeah.
had. Other
Well,
than
I know for me, that having the automatic door has been a big time saver.
yeah,
Closing and opening the door when you're in a wheelchair coming in with groceries, that for me was always a really big challenge, right? Tie a rope to the end of the door and pull the door shut type thing, and then getting the door open. So for me, having an automatic door has been one of the things that I'm really, really grateful for. And I would definitely recommend it if anyone is needing that for your house or your apartment. I learned that you can actually get those installed pretty easily, and Amazon has a variety of different devices that I didn't know. But when I was working on my home trying to get that set up, that's another one of those features that is nice, and they now make them where they're enabled with Alexa and those types of things. So I've always struggled to get the door open and get those groceries in the house. So the smart door, automatic door, definitely something I would recommend. And just I keep trying to utilize technology so that it makes my life easier. But at the same token, Alexa is a little creepy in the sense that it makes song recommendations that just don't make sense. Like, why do I want to listen to Taylor Swift, right? I'm not a Swiftie, but sometimes it says, Taylor Swift is your recommendation. So I'm like, why? But and I don't know. It's kind of creepy. Definitely.
well, I want to thank you for being on the show with us today. We'll definitely have you on again. And again, guys, this guy knows a lot about the disability community, and how to get into certain things and grants and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just hit him up. The guy is very knowledgeable. He's a great martial arts student. He listens well. I think self care is so important, and I do want to reflect on something that he said earlier. Don't wait until you're at the last minute of your life, where you're about to explode, to take time for yourself. Don't let it build up to that point where you're just like, I'm going to kill everybody. Don't let it build up to that point, because you need to take time. Take a week, get yourself, go on vacation, do something that you want to do, listen to music that you want to listen to, go out and garden, go do a puzzle, go for a walk, or a roll, or something of that nature. Go to a karate tournament. It is very, very fun. I believe that every karate school should mandate karate tournaments, at least 2 a year, for students to go to get the experience, to understand martial arts, to ask questions. Because the only way you're going to find out really what you want to do in life is to ask and go explore. Look into therapeutic writing programs. Look into self-help meditation. Look into CrossFit. Look into bocce. Look into the Paralympics. Look into uh, uh, the the karate demo teams. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that you can do in your area. Talk to your parks and recreation. Get out there, but you got to be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. And again, thank you so much for being here, Tony. I was so glad to have you.
I really appreciate it, DJ, and thank you again for having me.
All right. Kayla said, go find adaptive sport, swimming. That's a good idea. She said also love Amazon. She uses Amazon a lot too. Amazon Prime has a lot of stuff. I go for it, man. If you want to get something done, go do it. Don't wait for somebody to do it for you. I'm D to the J with the roll. D to the J with a roll away. See you next Wednesday, hopefully right at 7:00 for another exciting episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. Tony, stay right with us. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody take care. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast, Facebook Live, and on www.letgoradio.net. Also, if you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, where we post all of our show's episodes in our My CP playlist. As always, I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. If you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for being part of the show.